الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We start today, inshallah ta'ala, Al-Qa'idatu Al-Khamisa, the fifth principle from the 10 principles of righteousness or uprightness. Al-Istiqaamah, Shaykh Abdul Razak Al-Abbad, Hafidhahullah. Al-Qa'idatu Al-Khamisa, Al-Istiqamatu tata'allaq bil-aqwal wal-af'al wal-niyat. That Al-Istiqamah, being upright or righteous, is connected to three things: statements, actions, and intentions. Statements, actions, and intentions. فالاستقامة المطلوبة من العبد استقامة في الأقوال وفي الأفعال وفي النيات، بمعنى أن أقوال العبد وجوارحه وقلبه ينبغي أن تكون كلها ماضية على الاستقامة. That what's expected is that not just a person's statement, what we say is, sounds good, right? We deem it in our statements. We know all the right words to say, all the loose, the latest Arabic terms, and all that kind of stuff. Not just in the statements. We know the hadith, we might know the ayat, we know the statement from the scholar. Not just that. Bimana and the aqwal, the statements, along with the limbs, the actions. That the actions are supposed to be there too. Wal qalb, and the heart. There should be sincerity in the heart. All of those things should be upon righteousness. All those things should be upright. As Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, in Madarij al-Salikin, al-Istiqamah tata'allaq bil-aqwal wal-af'al wal-ahwal wal-niyat. That is connected to all things. It's not just connected to the look. It's not just connected to one thing. It's connected to all three: statements, actions, and the intention in the heart. So it's not enough just to say one side, one extreme, that Allah knows what's in my heart and that's enough, which people try to use as a pass to disobey Allah. If you advise somebody and say, Allah knows what's in my heart, you're overboard. Oh, that's extra. Oh, I don't have to do all that because Allah knows what's in my heart. That's at one extreme. Or the other side where the statement is there, the statements are all there, all of the good things to say. We know everything to say, but it's no action. But the actions have to be there. The actions have to be there, and this is similar to Iman of the Muslim. The faith of a Muslim is included statements, actions, and belief in the heart. He says, وَفِي الْمُسْنَدِ الإمام أحمد من حديث أنس رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. This hadith is recorded by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad. That Anas said, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, لا يستقيم إيمان عبد حتى يستقيم قلبه. That no person's iman will be correct until the heart is correct. And he mentioned that hadith before, but he didn't mention the second part. And he said, وَلَا يَسْتَقِيمُ قَلْبُهُ حَتَّى يَسْتَقِيمَ لِسَانُهُ. And that a person's heart won't be correct حَتَّى يَسْتَقِيمَ لِسَانُهُ, until his tongue is correct. Protection of the tongue. We was talking about yesterday in the khutbah, guarding the tongue, guarding and protecting, making sure we know what we're saying out of our mouths. And this hadith is recorded by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah in his Musnad. The importance of the tongue and preserving and protecting what we say out of our mouths and guarding our tongues. قال ابن رجب رحمه الله وأعظم ما يراعي استقامته بعد القلب والجوارح اللسان. The most important thing that we have to pay attention to, this is the statement of Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, the most important thing that we have to pay attention to after we purify our hearts and try to guard our hearts and our actions, as he said in the other principle, the actions are connected to what's in the heart. So what's in our heart, it basically becomes apparent on the limbs. After that, the most important thing to pay attention to is the tongue. فَإِنَّهُ تُرْجُمَانَ الْقَلْبِ وَالْمُعَبِّرِ عَنْهُ. Because the tongue also relays what's in the heart. The tongue also relays what's in the heart. طيب, which is important. Because if our hearts are, as Allah described, قَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, if our hearts are a certain way, and if we're protecting our hearts, then it should show in our actions and in the way we speak. It wouldn't just be in the way we it wouldn't just be in our actions, it would also be connected to the way that we speak, what we say out of our mouths. Which shows, he says here, Shaykh Abdul-Razak, يلاحظ هنا خطورة القلب واللسان على العبد, which shows the importance of the heart and the tongue when it comes to Al-Istiqaamah, being upright. That these things have to go hand in hand. And hearing these ahadith, it shows the mistake that people make when they try to exclude one from the other. The ones who say, Allah knows in my heart, right? To try to exclude the fact they're not doing something else. So the fact that they're not doing something else, they want to use the hadith, and they might mention only one part, that Allah doesn't look at this, or He looks at your hearts. Right? There's this hadith that says that, but it's another hadith that says He looks at your hearts and your action. So, hearing these hadith, it lets us know that there's a balance between the two. There has to be a balance. That we can't go too far to one side. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah said that the tongue speaks what is in the heart, just like the limbs do. The limbs are a representation of what's really in a person's heart. طيب, فالقلب واللسان كلاهما مضغة صغيرة جدا إلا أن جوارح العبد كلها تبع لهما. The heart and the tongue, as far as looking at the rest of the body, if you look at the rest of the body parts, the heart and the tongue are very small compared to a lot of the body parts, right? And the rest of the body parts, even though they're small in size, the rest of the body parts are under their order, basically. They follow what's in the heart, or what's in the tongue. They're pretty much in control. إذا استقام القلب واستقام اللسان استقامت الجوارح. If the heart is upright and righteous, and the tongue is upright and righteous, the rest of the body falls in line. And then he brings a dalil for each one. And these are hadith. It's simple, but Islam is simple. Islam is not complicated and difficult. Islam is real simple. You guard this, this is what happens. You don't guard this, then this is what happens. The first hadith to show that the importance of the heart. And he mentioned this hadith before already. He says, وَالدَّلِيلُ الْأَوَّلِ, the proof, the dalil for the qalb, the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu, ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. That there's a small portion, a morsel of flesh in the body. If it's upright and correct, then the rest of the body is upright and correct. And if it's evil and corrupt, then the rest of the body is evil and corrupt. Meaning it shows what's in the heart becomes apparent on the limbs and the person's actions. ألا وهي القلب. And that piece of flesh is the heart, showing the importance of the heart. That we got to guard and protect ourselves and try to protect our iman from things that'll damage and poison our hearts. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot of things. We're dealing with a lot. We're dealing with a whole lot. The dalil for the lisan, guarding the tongue. It says, ما رواه الترمذي رحمه الله من حديث أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا أصبح ابن آدم فإن الأعضاء كلها تكفر اللسان فتقول اتق الله فينا فإنما نحن بك فإن استقمت استقمنا وإن وجدت اعوججنا. That the rest of the body parts say to the tongue. The rest of the body parts say to the tongue, ittaqillah, fear Allah regarding us. This is the body speaking to the tongue. Fear Allah with regards to the rest of the body. And then they say, فَإِنَّمَا نَحْنُ بِكَ, that we are under your command, basically. The rest of the body talking to the tongue. فَإِنِ اسْتَقَمْتَ, if you're upright, then we'll be upright. The tongue. Allah musta'an. They used to say, he was out there cussing like a sailor. He'd be out there cussing like sailors. The brothers, the women be like, it's foul. Mouths are foul, man. Allah musta'an. Allah forgive us. Like, but it's carried on like it's not even an issue. Like that's the norm. The norm is for our women to talk like they just came off the street. That's Allah musta'an. Not all of them, but it's a lot of people. And there was a time when that wasn't the case. At least not here. You wouldn't find a Muslim, especially not a sister, covered, talking like cursing in public on the street. I mean, even if not on the street now, they just put it on the internet. It's public. Either way, it's public. That the rest of the body, they say to the tongue, fear Allah regarding us. Fear Allah regarding us, we're under your care. If you're upright, then we're going to be upright. And if you're crooked, then we're going to be crooked. And this is the statement of the rest of the body to the tongue, showing how serious and how dangerous the tongue can be. So if the tongue is upright, then if the heart is upright, as according to the hadith, the rest of the body falls in line. And the same thing for the tongue. And this is Allahu musta'an. Allahu musta'an. As both the tongue and the heart, as he says, both the tongue and the heart, with lisan turjuman, that they represent their representation of what is in the heart. And he says here, turjuman al-qalb wa khalifatuhu fi dhahir al-badan. He described the tongue as being a khalifa, the tongue and the heart as being a khalifa for the rest of the body. The tongue and the heart as being a khalifa for the rest of the body. Which shows the importance that we have to guard our tongues. We have to make sure, and a lot of that was spoken about in the khutbah yesterday, we got to make sure that we are saying things out of our mouths that are pleasing to Allah. That we're saying things out of our mouths that are pleasing to Allah, that we know what we're talking about. When we say stuff that we don't know, that we're not shy to say that we don't know. As there's nothing weak, or it's nothing to weaken a person. It shouldn't weaken a person, or a person shouldn't feel weak when they say they don't know something, or if they say they don't know. As the man would encourage the students to make that part of their vocabulary, that entity. And there's plenty of stories of the Salaf, where they would ask questions and they would say they didn't know. Everybody knows the story of Imam Malik. I heard personally a lot of times, questions in the Haram, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, about issues that we would answer. You ask somebody right now, they would answer. We're talking about hundreds of people from all over the world coming there to ask a question, and he would say he don't know that. And one time it had to do with the beard. Sheikh Salih looked at that. They asked him about cutting the beard in the country they were from. Yeah? Cutting the beard is haram, right? Haram, you can't cut your beard, period. You can't shave your beard. Can I cut my beard due to this, that, and the third is going in my country? Allah A'lam. There's a lot of things that we just, that's it. Nothing to talk about. The hadith is clear, right? I heard a lot of ulama, I don't know. I was sitting there, thought I knew the answer. So I thought it was this. La adri. Or sometimes they would say, Is'al ulama'akum. Is'al ulama'akum. They would say, ask the scholars in your country. They didn't answer what country they were from. But it's expected that, as ulama, scholars of Islam, it's expected that they wear everywhere. Scholars not restricted to Saudi, they're not restricted to Egypt, they're not restricted to whoever. And the person didn't say, I'm from such and such. They asked a question, they said, Is'al ulama'akum. Ask the scholars in your country. Basically, I'm not getting involved in that. Even if you did know the answer, hikmah of guarding the tongue. There's a lot of stories from, just a lot of them. And sometimes when people ask questions and you tell them you don't know, they look at you like, how you don't know that? You was there all that time and you don't know that? And then Malik, rahimahullah, the man who came and asked him all those questions, 40 questions, he answered 4. In some narrations it says 4 out of 40. Didn't answer 36 questions. And he was the imam of the Medina, not just the imam of the masjid, imam of Medina. The man said, I'm going to go back and tell him, man, Malik doesn't know. He said, Tayyib, go tell him. There's no shyness, a person saying, I don't know about that. I don't know. But we feel like we got to answer. We feel like we got to answer. That's from the shaitan. It's a deception from the shaitan. And we feel like we have to know everything. And if we don't know, we're not able to answer, then we feel like the people want to look at us a certain way. So we got to shoot something out there. We just shoot anything, something from the hip, just to make it sound like I'm close to knowing what I'm talking about, but I really don't know what I'm talking about. Instead of just saying I don't know, it's safer. It's safer to say la adri. And Sheikh Abdul Majid and many of them Sheikh, they would say, I don't know. And we'd be looking at each other like, Sheikh Muhammad, how to be many. A lot of times, you would ask them questions, and sometimes they'd be like, la adri. They'll go, read, just keep reading. And we'd be like, we'd be looking at each other sitting there like, they'd be like, read, keep going. All right. And you would think it was a simple question. But Allah knows best. We got to guard our tongues. طيب. فاللسان تابع للقلب والجوارح تابعة لهما. It says, so the tongue follows the heart, and the rest of the body follows the both of them. The rest of the body parts follow the both of them. He says, وَلِهَذَا وَاجِبًا عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ أَنْ يُعْنَ بِالصَّلَاحِ قَلْبِهِ. And then for this reason, it's obligatory that the Muslims pay attention to correcting or rectifying the heart. Rectification of our hearts. Sometimes we might not know how to, and that's a problem in itself. What's one of the best ways for a person to purify their heart? Dua. G. Dua. What else? Purification of the heart. So hearts are sick. Some of us got sick hearts. The cure for a sick heart can be found in the Quran. Reading the Quran. Reading the Quran. They on the shelves. They all over. Allah Ustad. We got the small ones, the pocket ones, they're on the phone, they're in the car. Right? No, they're everywhere. But we have to use them. The Prophet said, Al-Quran hujjatan laka wa alayk. The Quran will be a proof for you or against you. It says that we have to pay attention and make sure that we're guarding our hearts, correcting our hearts. وَأَنْ يَسْأَلَ رَبَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى أَنْ يُصْلِحَ قَلْبَهُ. As he said, to make dua and ask Allah to rectify and purify our hearts. Number 1, dua, seeking Allah's help. And that comes in the next qaida, seeking Allah's help. وَأَنْ يُذْهِبَ عَنْهُ أَمْرَاضَ الْقُلُوبِ وَأَسْقَامَهَا. Ask Allah to remove the sicknesses from our hearts. Right? He says, ثُمَّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى إِصْلَاحِ لِسَانِهِ بِالْأَقْوَالِ الزَّاكِيَةِ. And after that, to act. Not just make dua and then don't do anything. make dua, and then act. And then work on, he says after that, work on the tongue. Work on the tongue. Work on guarding our speech, the way we speak, what we say out of our mouths, how we say it out of our mouths. Because it's not always what you say, but sometimes it's how you say it. And that's why a lot of people, a lot of times don't want to hear what we have to say because of the way we say it. You say, well, I was giving them the hot. I was giving them the hot. Right? I was giving him the hot. Yeah, but you talking to him like he's your son. He's older than you. He might be old enough to be your grandfather. And you talking to him like he's your son because you giving him the hot. There's no hikmah in that. It's not how you say it sometimes. It's not what you say, but sometimes it's how you say it. We screaming at sister screaming at her. Says, she's a new shahada. You screaming at her. She's a new shahada. Sometimes with people with new shahadas, like they not took shahada yesterday. They took shahada last month. That's still new. They took shahada 3 months ago. That's still new. 6 months is new. Sometimes people have been Muslim for 3, 4, 5 years, but they still on the level of a new shahada. So they don't know. And then we come because we done benefited from some classes and stuff like that, and we scream at them. And sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. He said that the act on يعمل على إصلاح لسانه بالأقوال الزاكيات. Act on or work on correcting our speech and our statements. What we say, how we say it, all that is included. وَجَوَارِحِهِ بِالْأَعْمَالِ الصَّالِحَةِ. And the actions with righteous actions. And this is just like the issue of Iman. Just like the issue of faith. That Iman is not just a statement of the tongue only. I believe in Allah, Sunnah, all the right words to say. And then a person don't pray. Or a person doesn't fast Ramadan, or they don't do half of what they're supposed to be doing. Or you would think, as much as they talk, you would think they did all of the Sunnah. Right? As much as they talk and beat you down with statements, you would think that they never missed a voluntary salat after the salat. But then you come to know that they don't pray any of them. They don't pray the two for fajrs, nothing after the door, no rawatib, sunnah rawatib, they don't do anything. They barely making it. Barely. They all over you and all over other people, and they're doing what the bare minimum. The bare minimum that kids that play soccer in the street do. Kids that play soccer in the street play 5 times a day. It's not like, alhamdulillah, it's obligatory. But that's not like some super level. You run around everybody, bashing everybody, going in on everybody. But they play soccer in the street, and then they stop, and then they come in when it's time to pray, and then that's it. And we do the same thing. But when we do it, we think because we did that we got some leverage on the next person to be able to tell them and scream at them because we done made 5 salats in a day. Allahu musta'an. This is almost just similar to Iman. يعمل على الإصلاح لسانه وجوارحه بالأعمال الصالحة. That we guard our tongues from foul speech and from how we say it to people, and then we do the actions of Iman. Actions after that. Righteous actions. طيب. That was the 5th qaida. That was the 5th principle. The actions, that Al-Istiqaamah, righteousness is attached to statements, actions, and intentions. And if we know those two simple hadith, it lets us know that to say Allah knows what's in my heart is a cop-out. That's a cop-out from one jihad. And even when people do it, we don't have to scream on them. They might really have a misunderstanding. They think that's enough. And there's people who really think that's enough. The Murji'ah, they think that's enough. A group of innovators, a real group of innovators, not the brothers on the sunnah that we. The Murji'ah. There's different levels of them, the Murji'ah. And part of their thing is that sins don't affect your faith. Sins don't affect your Iman. So basically, you could say what you want to say, one group of them. You could say something. As long as you say this, you good. If you're sinning after that, it's not going to make a difference anyway. one group of them. And they on different levels, and you find some of the brothers now, they got that type of mentality. As long as I say this, I'm good. I say I believe this, I could behave and say out my mouth anything I want to say. We're not saying they're murji'ah, but it's a characteristic of the murji'ah, of that group, that sins don't affect iman. So this principle that righteousness, al-istiqaamah, is connected to statements, actions, and intentions. Statements, actions, and intentions. Al-Qaeda to Sadisa, the sixth principle. He says, لا تكون الاستقامة إلا لله وبالله وعلى أمر الله. That istiqamah is for three reasons. For three reasons. And this is important because the Prophet ﷺ said that the thing that he feared most for the Sahaba was what? أخوف من المسيح الدجال. More than the Masih al-Dajjal. He said he feared for the Sahaba more than the Masih al-Dajjal. You want to know? أخوف ما أخاف عليكم. He said the thing that I fear the most for you, more than the Masih al-Dajjal, the biggest fitna at the end of time. The biggest fitna, one of the biggest fitnas at the end of time, when the Masih al-Dajjal comes. The Sahaba were like, definitely wanted to know, what was that fitna? More than the Masih al-Dajjal? Anybody remember that hadith? Showing off. Showing off. Yeah. Showing off. Allah protect us. I mean, that أخوف ما أخاف عليكم. The Sahaba, that he feared for the Sahaba, ardiyat, showing off. We come from showing off, and this movement moved back to, we've been given an opportunity now again. The opportunity has been presented again to show off. And then on another level now. Before you needed Polaroids and all that kind of stuff. Now we got cameras and you could just take 1 million pictures and, you know, we gotta be careful. We gotta really be careful. He said the thing I fear for you the most, ar-riya, showing off, which is hidden shirk. So this principle is talking about the opposite. It says, al-istiqaamah. لا تكون الاستقامة إلا لله. Upright, being righteous and practicing the deening, is done for three reasons. Lillah, number one, lillah. Khalisa, that a person is sincere. That it's not because it's the latest thing to do, or if I don't do it, then the people that know I'm a Muslim are going to be looking at me like, how you Muslim and you're not doing it? Right? That we practice Islam, and we stay away from the haram, and we do what we're supposed to do. We practice Sunnah because the reward is with Allah. It's really that simple. To save ourselves from the hellfire and to try to secure ourselves a station in paradise. Firstly, khalisa. بمعنى أن يستقيم العبد وأن يلزم الصراط الله المستقيم مخلصا بذلك أمر الله عز وجل. That a person practices the deen. You say he deening. Not deening because he's trying to marry sis. She been checking up, she doing her homework. Now you got to deen up. Because her pops might, her wali might come through and check on you. So now we tighten up so we can get married. Allah Musta'an. What a sister does the same thing. She knows he's coming to check, so now she's going to tighten up. She, get one of them nice abayas. Overheads. So you get the nice one. We gotta be sincere. That we could fool each other. We could fool each other. And she might fool him and he might fool her for the sit down. But everybody gotta stand before Allah. Everybody has to stand before Allah. And Allah knows all of our intentions. Allah knows everybody's intention. That we have to be sincere. And that's what he said. That we're trying to practice Islam because we've been commanded to, and our reward is with Allah. Mukhlisan bidalika. Being sincere when we're doing it. And then secondly, he says, Taliban thawabahu wa ridha. seeking Allah's reward, that it shouldn't bother us. It shouldn't bother us if someone doesn't praise us for being what we consider deening. If nobody notices, if nobody gives us a pat on the back for deening, it shouldn't bother us. Why not?
It's for Allah.
It's for Allah. It doesn't make a difference if somebody came and pat you on the back or not. It makes no difference because the reward is not with the people. The reward is with Allah. And we shouldn't be bothered, we shouldn't be concerned about if the people are going to say something if we disobey Allah. Because if we disobey Allah, then who's the punishment from? The people? The punishment is from Allah Jalla. It's a punishment. We're going to be held accountable Yawm al-Qiyamah. So we shouldn't be concerned about people. And that doesn't mean that we don't care about what image is projected, what people say, especially for us with beards, and we look like we carry a serious, it looks like, okay, you're a Muslim. You like really representing Islam when you go out the house, right? You should care. You should care about what image that we give off, because either way is da'wah. At the least, leaving out the house looking like a Muslim is da'wah, at the least. So a person saying, I ain't a student, you look like a Muslim. Who else walking around with beards and henna and round marks on their faces? Who else is walking around like that? What other people walking around with khimars on and niqabs on?
I think I asked Ali about this before. Is there like a line drawn where, with regard to that, trying to be a good representation of Islam, or as far as, what I'm saying, what people think, or what being a good representative of Islam, like when you go out and you just you might be trying to dispel certain myths about Islam, especially to the non-believers. Is there like a line drawn where it's almost like you could be going too far, where you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, your actions are for the sake of Allah. So, but at the same token, or let's just say, for example, non-believers, they got this perception of Muslims of how we treat our women, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, they gotta walk behind them and this and that.
Right.
So if you out and you walking and you just basically, sometimes you might drop back and just to kind of dispel certain myths. Like, is it a point where you could be going too far to just, I guess to.
You gotta have hikmah. You gotta be able to know. If you're in a certain place, that might be from hikmah. If you're in a certain place and that's a popular belief about the Muslims, then you might want to do that. You understand what I'm saying? You might want to do that. If that's what the popular belief is about the Muslims in the area and it's not true, if you can remove that type of belief to the best of your ability, then you should try to do it. Now, you might not be able to say something, but you might be able to do something small like that, where a person could go home and say, well, but I thought that the Muslim women couldn't walk in front of it. I saw him, he was behind her the whole time. That's if we care about the image of Islam. If we don't care, we do what we want to do. But if you try to preserve and you conscious about, all right, my wife is walking around, it's the middle of the summer, number one, it could be whatever. The fact that our women put scarves on their heads by itself, that by itself puts them in a whole nother light, wherever they go. They don't even have to have on a whole overgarment. The fact that they got scarves on and they go outside of Philadelphia, they go outside of the immediate area where that's normal, it puts them in a situation, right? It puts them immediately in a situation. Now, sometimes, depending on where you're at, it might be from hikmah to do something like that. If that's what's popular there, if that's the popular belief, they think that the women can't walk in front of the men. Allow where they get it from. But if that's what they think, it might be good it might be from hikmah to do that. Everything is like relative, right? In another area, there might not be, nobody thinks that. So doing that may not really bring it might not raise any awareness to the situation. There might be some other things that they think, right? If you go outside, some Christians think that we worship Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How you gonna go outside and prove, you know what I'm saying, and prove that kind of thing? But stuff like that, what's apparent, some think we gotta wear kufis. Some people think you gotta wear, if you don't got a kufi on it, you ain't dining. Some of them think that. Some think that the women have to wear black. So they say, if she don't have on black,
where's your kufi?
Yeah, where's your kufi? They might. Some of them think they gotta wear black. If they don't wear black, some of the Muslims think that they gotta wear black. If they don't wear black, then they're not, a real Muslim. So small stuff like that, if you can change it to the best of your ability, that's khair. That's khair. At the least, leaving out the house looking like a Muslim, at the least is a form of da'wah. That everybody is held responsible for it at some level. They might not be given a khutbah or something like that. But if we going outside, a lot of us look at the way we look. We represent Islam. And if we giving Islam a bad name based on our actions, then we got to know that, okay, I'm going to be held responsible for that. We got to be aware, conscious.
I was just concerned about the, like I said, the line being drawn to where it's almost,
It means going overboard?
Yeah, being considered people pleasing as the, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So.
People pleasing. I mean, it depends. It depends. If something like that, people think that the women can't walk in front of the men, it might be from hikmah to show. And that don't really take anything. That really takes no effort like that. Right? Just to let her walk in front of you. And it might in that area, if that's serious in that area, that might make a big difference. It depends, it's relative, depending on what the situation is, what the issue is. So the first thing he says, Al-Istiqaamah, is that a person is sincere. A person plainly is deening, because the reward is with Allah. And I'm only saying stuff because that's what the issues that come up. It's always an issue about marriage. They went to the sit down and married, and then you found out something else. Or, the stuff that we go through. So we got to mention that. Or people go through stuff. They go through stuff, whether it's with their wives, another person, and then when something happens, first thing a person does is stop practicing religion. As if that's going to bring more benefit to the situation. As if the fact that you stop praying, you and your wife split up, the wife and the husband split. So she thinks the fact that since they split, her taking off her khimar and overgarment is going to make things better. Like a total misunderstanding. Total. What benefit is that going to bring to the situation? Unless you're trying, what are you trying to do? What is removing the khimar in that situation going to do for the problem between the husband and the wife? Right? It's no benefit at all. It harms the situation worse. Because more than likely, if she's not covering, more than likely, then what? Then she ain't praying. If you ain't praying, if you're not praying, how much benefit do you think you're going to get? How much mercy from Allah Jalla wa Ala? Do you think Allah's going to really, do you deserve to be helped and aided in that type of case when you openly disobeying Allah? Right? The first time something happened, a glitch in the matrix, he don't come around, he don't come to the masjid no more. Not that you got to come to a specific masjid, but the new thing is, I'm just, you just what? You don't pray nowhere, I'm praying in the house. When did that become the new thing? So, to put things in perspective, it's like, if something happens, we got to make sure that we're doing it sincerely for Allah. I'm not praying in the masjid because I want her to see me praying in the masjid so I can marry her. And the sister's not covering because she know that brother only marries sisters if they wear niqab and gloves. So she's trying to marry him, so she wears niqab and gloves to make sure that, because that's the type of women he like. Then when something happens, everything is thrown to the side. That if you base your intention like that, then you're going to get the result of that. The result is going to show. Eventually it's going to show.
Yeah, see? And I think that could be right along that same line. Like you said, he wanted to wipe the head and cob and the gloves, and because it's, all right, what do you think, that make you more pious, or you want to be seen as this, you know what I mean? But that's not
right.
Truly what's...
If that's what's in your heart, alhamdulillah. But make sure that's what's in your heart. The point is not knocking none of that. It's not a knock on any of it. But make sure, for all of us, we got to make sure that we're doing it for that reason. That we're not doing it for a foul reason to gain something. It's not done. We're not doing it for, not to say in common gloves, no, alhamdulillah, khair. But why are you doing it though? That's the important thing. Why is it being done? Not that you're doing it, not that the lihya, not that there's a problem, but make sure that we're doing it because we know that Allah commanded us to seek His reward, and that we're trying to be sincere, and that we're trying to deem seeking Allah's reward. The issue is not the appearance, and that's not the issue, but we have to make sure we're doing it for the right reason. Sometimes they put on the khimar, next thing you know, boom, just like that. Just like that. It could have been weak iman, it could have been a lot of things. Could have been a lot of things. But a lot of times, just the norm, a lot of times what happens, it's a divorce or something like that. When she divorces him, she don't cover no more. Like the general assumption to say, all right, well, dad, well, what happened? Right? And then people make assumptions, which could be wrong in itself, right? But point is, the intention, the heart has to be there. And that's what he says in the ayah he used, called Allah Ta'ala, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. Surah Al-Bayyinah, the 6th ayah in Surah Al-Bayyinah, they were not commanded except to worship Allah mukhlisin, with sincerity. With sincerity. And that's a whole issue in itself, al-ikhlas. And there's tons of books and tons of narrations of the Salaf on how they would guard their sincerity. And how they would guard their sincerity to make sure that they were doing everything seeking Allah's reward. Tayyib. He says, secondly, that al-istiqaamah, uprightness, is for, he says, billah, ay musta'inan ala tahqiqiha wal qiyam biha, wal thawab alayha billah. That, and he mentioned this kind of earlier, one of the other principles, that a person has to ask Allah for guidance, seek Allah's help. That we're not able to get up and pray any salah throughout the day except by Allah's help. It's not because we just, who we are. You're just a strong Muslim for the past, you who you are, so you just get to do what you get to do. But it's by Allah's help. It's by Allah's help. So we have to seek Allah's help. And he mentioned that before, that Al-Istiqaamah, hiba, that it's a gift, it's a ni'mah, it's a blessing from Allah. But we got to ask Him, ask Allah for His aid. Allah Ta'ala, Allah said in Surah Hud, ayah 123, fa'budullah, fa'buduhu wa tawakkal alayh. Worship Allah and depend on Him. Put your dependence, your tawakkul, depend on Allah Jalla wa Ala. In tafsir, in the explanation of the ayah, it said, worship Allah and trust. Yeah, we got to trust Allah Jalla wa Ala. We got to trust in the Quran. The Quran, we say the Quran is the truth, it's the book of Allah. We got to trust the ayat in the Quran. We have to trust it. If Allah told us to do something that is khayr, then we got to believe that it's really, if I do this, it's going to bring some good. If Allah told us to stay away from it because there's harm in it, then we have to believe and trust that Allah, the Quran is not going to guide me to something that's going to harm me. We have to really trust it. He says in that ayat in Surah Hud, fa'buduhu, worship Him, so worship Him and depend on Him. Allah said in another ayat, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. You alone we worship and you alone we seek help. Which means we got to extend those dua the dua, when we in sajda and when we praying, we need to extend them and make them longer and seek Allah's help. Allah keep us upright and make us better than people think we are, and make us better than we think we are. Right? Allahumma ihdini wa saddidni. That hadith, that dua that the Prophet ﷺ to Ali, oh Allah, guide me and keep me on the straight path. Tayyib. Those two ayahs, Surah Al-Fatiha, the ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een, seeking Allah's help. You alone we worship and you alone we seek help. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, hadith Sahih and in Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk. Busy yourself with things that are beneficial to you. Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk. Busy yourself with things that will benefit you. Wasta'in billah. And seek Allah's help. Seek Allah's help. That it doesn't matter if we were born Muslim or Muslim for 20 years or 10 years, or we know Arabic, we don't know Arabic. That practicing the deen is a mercy, is a ni'mah, it's tawfiq. It's tawfiq from Allah. So we got to ask Allah's aid and help in assisting us to be able to get up and pray Salat al-Fajr on time. That we got to, simple like that. Do we make dua to ask Allah before we sleep? Make it easy for me to get up and pray Salat al-Fajr in the masjid with the Jama'ah. Because it's only by Allah's leave, it's only by Allah's aid that He allows us to do something like that. It's not our own strength. That's why we say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Everything is by Allah's leave, so we have to seek Allah's help and Allah's aid. He says, lastly, wa ala amrillah. Al-Istiqaamah, being upright, ala amrillah an yasira fi istiqamatihi ala al-nahj al-qawim sirat al-mustaqim alladhi amara Allahu subhanahu wa ta'ala ibadahu bi. That being upright or righteous or al-Istiqaamah is based on, how do we know what righteousness is? Or how do we know if somebody deening or not? How do we know what's deen and what's not deen? Who determines what's righteous and what's not righteous? Who determines what's upright and what's not upright? Allah is Masjid, alayhi salatu wasalam. The Quran and the Sunnah is the determination, is the gauge for, we say somebody's deen. So it sounds simple, but if we don't know that, then we think anybody who sounds good is deen. And he might not be. We think anybody who sounds good is righteous. Or we think anything that we see that we don't know is righteous, when it could be a total mistake. It could be a total mistake. And this is an issue like Sheikh Saleh Ali Sheikh spoke about, that a person who's eloquent and they can articulate real good, they might be a good speaker. And his explanation with Kashf al-Shubahat. And Kashf al-Shubahat, the removal of doubts about, it's the introduction. It was talking about the people who they might put partners with Allah in worship. They might commit shirk. But when you see them, they might have sajda marks. They might fast every other day. So they might fast until their skin, you can see it wearing on their body. They fast so much, they pray so much. They do all these acts of worship, but at the same time, they put partners with Allah in a serious way, not just showing off like worship a dead, somebody in the grave, or they might really be making major shirk. And if you talk to them, if you talk to people, he says sometimes it's hard for people to digest that. You telling me this person who does all of this, look at them. They commit shirk, they're nullifying all of their actions with that one action. He said sometimes it's hard for people to digest it. So he said that a lot of times you'll find that people who can speak, they're eloquent, right? They can articulate real good. He said this gravitates, most people gravitate to that type of talk. It sounds good, it's heartwarming, right? But at the same time, that talk it might be filled with mistakes. And the only people who pick up on the mistakes are who? People who have knowledge. People who don't know it sounds good. They might follow him. Al-Tafiyah, they call it Al-Tafiyah. It's emotional. It's emotional speech. It grab you in the heart, make you feel good. But you got tons of mistakes. He's like way, a small percentage of the people sitting there listening know that he's way off. The small percentage. Most are going along with him because they not having knowledge of the gauge. The knowledge is the gauge, not what he's saying. The gauge is the Quran and the Sunnah. The gauge is the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is what he says here, that Al-Istiqaamah, righteousness, is gauged by, he says, ala amrillah, what is found, what Allah commanded us with. Kama qala ta'ala, fastaqim kama umirt. In Surah Hud, ayat 112, Allah said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so be upright, fastaqim. So be upright as you were commanded. Imam al-Tabari, rahimahullah, he said in Tafsir, اطلب الاستقامة على الدين من الله واسأله ذلك. He said, ask Allah for guidance, al-istiqamah. Ask Allah to make you upright. Ask Allah to make you upright and ask Allah for guidance. And he says here, Shaykh Abdul Razak, وقد سبق الذكر بعض الآثار عن السلف رحمه الله تعالى في تقرير هذا المعنى كقول ابن عباس في قوله ثم استقاموا أي استقاموا في أداء الفرائض. He said, and he already mentioned a lot of the narrations on the Salaf, like Ibn Abbas, the meaning of istiqamu. The meaning of istiqamu, meaning be righteous and upright when it comes to performing the obligations. Number one, when it comes to performing the obligations. وقال حسن البصري رحمه الله استقاموا على أمر الله فعملوا بطاعته. Being upright, according to what Allah commanded us with, by what? Obeying Allah, with obedience. وَاجْتَنِبُوا مَعْصِيَتَهُ. And staying away from disobedience. Staying away from disobedience. Taqwa. Obeying Allah and staying away from disobedience. And this is, as he says, وَأَمْرُ اللَّهِ وَالشَّرْعُهُ وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ بِهِ نَبِيَّهُ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ وَسَلَامُ عَلَيْهِ. And the path of Allah is the path that he sent the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with. And that's important, that the gauge is the Quran and the Sunnah. Wallahi, I was out of town a couple of weeks ago. And I went to Jumu'ah. The brother made a khutbah, and Allah musta'an. The gauge is the Quran and the Sunnah, not what a person looks like. Not what a person looks like. Not what a person looks like. We caught up on looks a lot of times. Sometimes we put the look over everything. If you don't look like this, we can't even take you serious. Islamically, we can't even take you serious if you don't look a certain way. At least here in Philly. You gotta look, you have to have a certain look for me to even take you serious here. And if you don't have that look, I can't even really take you serious about nothing you're saying Islamic. Right? And that's how a lot of us move. A lot of us. And it's a khata, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. The look means something, but it's things bigger than that. It's things that are more important than the look. Things more important. The easiest thing to do is to go to 52nd Street or wherever and buy a kufi. Like, that's $5, $6. That's easy. Or the khimar, $10 khimar, put it on. It's a little more difficult, though, to behave like a Muslim. That takes a little more thought. It takes a little more knowledge, okay? A little more. I gotta pray 5 times. It takes a little more consciousness. I'm at work, I gotta stop and pray. I can't talk like that. I gotta behave like this. People know I'm Muslim. I can't really talk like that. I shouldn't be talking like that. And I gotta guard my tongue. It takes more. All right, you got the kufi, you got the khimar tayyib. You gonna get up for fajr? Or you just gonna pray the door because you're already up? It takes more. It takes a whole lot more. So the gauge is not the clothing, because most people in America, especially, man, don't walk around with thobes and stuff on everywhere. You go to other places, they don't wear thobes like that. They might wear thobes to Jummah. to Jumu'ah, and after Jumu'ah, when they go, they change them. They don't walk around with those and stuff. They don't have bus drivers with khimars. And sometimes, mashallah, a lot of sisters be driving. I've seen sisters driving a bus, a school bus with niqab on. You go outside, you don't find that. So you go somewhere else and they don't look like us, then what? Is that the gauge? That mean that nobody is practicing the sunnah there? That's a whole nother issue, a whole nother issue. The gauge is not the look, the gauge is the Quran and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If we don't know that, if we don't know the gauge, then we misgauging everything. Everything is off, it's thrown off. If we don't know how to weigh things and how to put things in their proper place, we end up with what we have now, a ball of confusion. Confusion, chaos. It's chaotic. But it can be fixed. But in order to fix it, we got to respect the text. We have to have some ta'zim for the text. We have to know that the Quran is a statement of Allah. If Allah commanded us with something, a basic belief of a Muslim, if Allah commanded us with something, it's good in it. If Allah told us to stay away from something, then there's something harmful in it that we need to stay away from. We have to trust the Quran and the Sunnah. It's real simple. Allah told us something because He commanded something because there's good in it. So we try to do it. He told us to stay away from something because there's some evil in it that's going to harm us. The Prophet said the same thing. He told us something, He guided us to something, it's good in it. If it was good, He would have told us to do it. Right? He told us to stay away from it because it's evil. It's simple. The problem comes in with our own nafs, our desires. So you're telling me, hold up, I can't touch my wife during the day during Ramadan? Man, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be that hard. Because Allah don't put nothing on you. La yukallifu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah don't put something on a person that he can't bear. If you're sick or something, that's a different thing. But a normal, regular person, healthy, you can do it. But the hawa, the desire doesn't want to do it. But that's the struggle, that's the jihad. The fight against our own selves to do what we know the reward is in. We'll stop there at Al-Qaeda to Sabi'ah and do the next principle, the seventh principle next week. Insha'Allah ta'ala. Any questions? طيب وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد